Good evening, everyone. It is precisely 250 years after the appearance of the first manuscript of Oyantai. A Hindi translation of this work has now surfaced. 2 centuries and a half is a long time, and indeed this delay has kept the Hindi speaker deprived of a work so historic. If the literary world is enraged with the delay, its rage is justified. However, there is a strange thing about all literary works. Unlike most of the things in the world, which wither away with time and fade into oblivion, a literary work grows younger and younger with time. Thanks to the never-ending transactional relationships within the societies, new perspectives come up, and old ones evolve to give a new dimension to look at a literary work. In the hiatus of 250 years, in the translation of Oyantai into Hindi, both spaces have now had new experiences, and therefore translating the work now has given us translators tools and perspectives that would have instead been unavailable some 200 to 250 years ago. Peruvian scholar Alfredo Yepes Miranda, in his research paper La Incainidad de Ollantay, while praising this literary work, writes, Ollantay is an Inca drama for the pride of the ancient culture of Peru. While the old Hindustani and Greek civilizations saw the world the rare and mysterious light in their ancient thought, contained in the immortal pages of Mahabharata and the Ramayana, the Iliad and the Odyssey, from the Peru of the Incas, we are enlightened by the brilliance of the art of that civilization in the drama of Ollantay. This play, as Ambassador has already mentioned, is the fruit of pre-Columbian Inca culture, the oldest expression of Quechua literature, with historical allusions to the glory of Inca Empire and its capital. Jose Maria Arguedas, arguably the greatest Peruvian novelist and ethnologist whose writing captured the contrast between the white and Indian cultures, praised this literary work in the following words. In the middle of this ocean of Quechua literature, Ollantay appears as an island, as a solitary monument, not only because of its profane theme, but because the work contains a praise of the Incas. This epic drama was preserved thanks to the strength of the indigenous oral tradition of the Incas, as has just been mentioned by Professor Ganguly, with their musical feasts and their dances, their songs or yaravis. It was later copied by the scholars of Quechua language and literature and adapted in colonial times for staging in according to the Western theatrical conventions. Over the years, this has been subject of much research by scholars, historians, poets, and linguists. It should be noted here that due to the lack of writing in Inca times, the Quechua literary tradition and culture was reconstructed based on oral histories collected by mestizo chroniclers such as Garcilaso de la Vega in his Comentarios Reales de los Incas in 1609, Felipe Guaman Poma de Ayala in his Nueva Crónica y Buen Gobierno in 1615, among others. In order to understand and appreciate the presence of theatrical performance in Inca times, it is worth mentioning here that the theatrical performances were deeply rooted in Inca culture, and there were two distinct genres of theater. The Huanca, which was a historical nature in which lives and exploits of monarchs and the great champions of the empire were reconstructed and recounted, and Arangue, in which the themes related to ordinary life were staged. Chroniclers such as in Garcilaso de la Vega, in his book Comentarios Reales de los Incas, writes, I quote, the Amautas, who were the philosophers, were not lacking in skills in composing comedies and tragedies, which on solemn days and feasts they performed before their kings and lords who attended the court. End of quote. This play belongs to the Huanca genre, and its existence has been asserted by the Inca Garcilaso de la Vega and other chroniclers. Here we would like to also highlight the fact that the performance of this play served to preserve the cultural aspects of Inca society in the memory of the indigenous people. We find historical references of a staging of this play during the rebellion of Tupac Amaru II in 1780 in a village called Tinta near Cusco. The staging of this drama was ordered by rebel Inca Jose Gabriel Condorcani to exacerbate the pride of the native race and stimulate the struggle of the native people against the Spanish colonial power in America. Scholars claim that the anonymity of this work is due to the censorship that was imposed against the Inca culture after the defeat of the rebellion towards the end of the 18th century. By a special order of Charles III, the Spanish colonial power prohibited any Inca theatrical performances, the use of Inca costumes, and even the use of Quechua language, and ordered the destruction of all the existing manuscripts of Ollantay. Later, some performances were organized during the Republic, and in 20th century, there is evidence that this play was adapted for a musical version and the text was arranged according to the requirements of modern theater. Outside Peru, the play was recomposed by the Argentinian Ricardo Rojas based on a personal interpretation that turned Ollantay into a precursor of American freedom, and in his tragedy titled Un Titán de los Andes in 1939. As for the historical context, there is no mention of dates or years in the work, but given the participation of the Inca king Pachacutec and his son Tupac Yupanqui, it could be placed between 1461 and 1471, following the chronology established for the imperial Inca period by the historians. It is difficult to confirm the facts narrated in the work, but they could be real, with some distortions later until they became legend. For this reason, there are several versions of Ollantay, but they all have a common source and the story is of Inca origin. We find the first manuscript of Ollantay in form of a fragment in the journal Museo Erudito in 1837, and the oldest manuscript we find, which is preserved now in the convent of Santo Domingo, which is the ancient Inca temple of Coricancha in Cusco. It dates to 1770 and belongs to Antonio Valdez. The 19th century English historian Clement Markham, among many others, they considered him to be its original author. Renowned writer and linguist Jesus Lara, quoting the editor of the newspaper Museo Erudito, says, I quote, "It was a work in Quechua language compiled a few years ago by Dr. Antonio Valdez, a priest of Sicuani. However, this assumption was later disproved by the scholars of Quechua language and literature. Others claim that Justo Pastor Justiniani was the author, but it was later proven that Justiniani's work was simply to copy the ancient text from the first copy, which is preserved in the National Archive of Peru. And we find another version which was later copied by Justo Apu Inca and preserved in the National Library of Peru. And therefore, the authorship of this text is a mystery, and due to the lack of any documentary record, it leads to several conjectures about its authorship, but the time it was composed and the colonial influence. We find that there are several versions of this play, as was pointed out by Professor Ganguly, and it has been translated into several languages. But the version we were given to translate is post-colonial. Although we have consulted other versions of this work, for example, that of Gavino Pacheco Segarra and Clemens Markham, for this translation we have relied on the first Spanish version by Jose Sebastian Barranca, a notable 19th century Quechua nationalist, which was published in 1868 under the title Ollantay, Drama en Verso Quechua del Tiempo de los Incas. Unlike the other versions in Quechua, Sebastian Barranca's version is of a narrative type. 2 or 3 choruses are also present in the play with the verse structure as a way of expressing the audience's thoughts. For example, a boy's chorus and a girl's chorus foretells the bad omen employing a bird called Tuya. We'll talk about the bird Tuya later. It is believed that one of the girls' choruses is still sung by Indians on their long journeys or when they're carrying crops from the field. But the central question that we need to deal with here is why we were asked to undertake to translate this play. While India celebrates the 75th year of independence, Peru commemorates 200 years of freedom from Spanish colonialism. The idea of showcasing a masterpiece of Peruvian literature in India, that is in Hindi, one of the most important languages of India spoken by roughly 500 million people, on the occasion of bicentenary of Peruvian independence, only brings closer the literature of two nations. It is important to note here that for our Hindi readers, this play not only exposes Inca culture historically, but touches on universal themes of love, religion, politics, war, freedom, and human dignity that continue to this day in literature. We believe that these themes are universally shared by peoples who have been oppressed by the colonial power. Although the drama is triggered by love affair, it unfolds on a political plane. Through the reading of Ollantay, we can appreciate various aspects of Inca culture civilization, such as the social structure, social hierarchy, the role of women in the Inca Empire, the religion in Inca life, and the relation between the plebe and the nobility. In the image of the protagonist of this play, we find the first American revolutionary. Ollantay is an example of transculturation from above. Professor Ganguly has given us some ideas about how to enter further into this study. We are not going to discuss this whole process of transculturation from above or below. But what we are going to do with this historical and cultural background, we will now discuss the challenges we faced while translating the work into Hindi. We would cite some of those issues and how we have worked closely in improving the text from the first draft to the fourth by using all the means available to us to overcome those challenges.